I've always wanted to be a mother. I remember when I was in kindergarten, all the kids were supposed to share what they wanted to be when they grew up. Most kids said things like firefighter, astronaut, doctor, cat doctor, etc. I said, mother. My teacher, Miss Moss, told me I could be a mother as well as something else and urged me to pick another dream job. I honestly couldn't think of one, but because all the other kids were staring at me, I blurted out, teacher. That made Miss Moss smile, but it made me feel bad because I knew I was lying to her. I've always hated lying to people. That's why I'm going to tell you the truth. I promise. I always knew I was going to be a mother. But never in a million years could I ever have imagined I'd have a daughter like Freya. When was in my teens, I got my first serious boyfriend, Jack. I started birth control because I knew it was the responsible thing to do. Logically, I knew I wasn't ready to be a mother, but I still couldn't help the feeling of despair that washed over me each time I swallowed another pill. Emotionally, it felt so wrong, putting this barrier between myself and my longest-held dream. Sometimes I'd even cry. These feelings became especially acute when Jack and I decided to get married. I wanted to start our family immediately, but Jack wanted us to finish university and get settled in newer careers before talking about kids. I agreed that was the logical thing to do. I kept swallowing those pills while pouring my longing into journals. I'd make lists of baby names and dream about who my child would grow up to be. Would they want to be a doctor? Or perhaps an investigative journalist? Maybe their greatest desire would be to be a parent, like me. I followed mommy bloggers online, memorizing their tips and tricks so I'd be ready to be the best mom ever, simultaneously wondering if my family would be as perfect as theirs. But I honestly wasn't looking for perfection. I just wanted to have a happy kid who would feel loved as their unique self. I knew whoever arrived, I was ready to love them to the stars and back. I was going to be the best mom. I knew I would be. Finally, Jack and I were ready to start our family. But it turned out harder than I had expected. Much harder. Months turned into years, and every negative test hit like a knockout punch. It never got easier. It probably didn't help that I was still following those perfect mommy bloggers with their perfect families. So I started following others who were sharing about their fertility journeys, people who were struggling as much as me. That helped me start sharing my own experiences. It felt so good knowing that I wasn't alone. It felt like being a part of this amazing community of people I had never met. Each time a fellow struggler finally found success, we all congratulated them joyfully, but alone, with Jack, I'd cry. I was tired of waiting for my turn. I know this wasn't only taking a toll on me, Jack was struggling too. One day, while I was crying in his arms, he asked me, if we aren't able to have kids, would a life with just the two of us be so bad? My silence was enough for us both to understand my answer to that. Jack and I decided to use all of our savings to try IVF. The process was tough emotionally and physically, injections, ultrasounds, waiting, but it all felt worth it to me. Then, finally, it happened. I was pregnant. The world finally felt like it made sense to me. Jack and I were overjoyed. I felt like I was walking on fluffy white clouds. That was before I knew what was coming. Child loss, we found out I was carrying a boy. We named him Oliver. But then, during a routine ultrasound, everything changed. The technician's silence and the doctor's grave expression told us what we didn't want to hear: something was wrong. Those fluffy white clouds I had been walking on, they became dark storm clouds that surrounded me for the rest of the pregnancy. We knew our son wasn't going to live long after his birth. In the end, one day was all we got with our perfect boy. I loved him to the stars and back, and I still do. I just wish I could have done something more to give him more time. I couldn't help but feel I had failed him as a mother. The next days, weeks, months, passed in a haze of grief so heavy I didn't know how we'd survive it. The nursery we'd so joyfully prepared now felt like a cruel joke. Silence felt deafening and any noise was the wrong noise. I'd like to say that our relationship grew stronger through our shared grief, but it didn't. I wanted to start trying for another baby. I thought it would help us step forward out of the darkness we had felt trapped in. I thought it would be good for us to have something to look forward to. But Jack said he wasn't ready. He said we had to build back up our savings. It didn't take me long to get him to admit that. Actually, the main reason was that he was scared about having another sick child. Jack packed his bag to stay at a hotel for a night. He said he just needed a bit of space. He never moved back. Somehow, in the midst of all this, I found myself back online, sharing my story. The responses poured in. Messages of love and shared pain. Messages I clung onto with desperation, as if each were a lifeline. I was in the bleakest part of my life, and those lifelines were essential. To make things even worse, I couldn't keep up with the mortgage, so had to list our house for sale. I shared all of this to my followers. Now I wonder, if I'd never shared anything online, would my daughter even exist? I think it was because I shared my story that the New Genesis Institute found me. Maybe Dr. Hart did personally read my posts. Or maybe an algorithm pointed them towards who they were looking for, a desperate woman who would give anything, do anything, for a child. I don't know how they found me, but I know that Freya wouldn't exist without them. It was early on a Sunday morning when I received this email. We are thrilled to extend to you an invitation to participate in an exclusive opportunity at the New Genesis Institute, a private fertility clinic dedicated to pioneering the future of human health and wellness. After learning about your fertility challenges and the heartbreaking loss you've endured, we believe you are uniquely positioned to benefit from and contribute to the groundbreaking work at the New Genesis Institute. Your journey has resonated deeply with Dr. Evelyn Hart, whose mission is not only to support those facing struggles, but also to advance the science of preventative medicine for future generations. To access your official invitation, please first sign the required NDA. There was a link to an NDA. I was nervous about clicking anything. It looked legit, but was this really some sort of horrible scam? By doing a quick search online, I learned that the New Genesis Institute was funded by Dr. Evelyn Hart, a billionaire philanthropist who had been funding health initiatives for years. There were hardly any photos of her. Dr. Hart appeared notorious for staying away from the public eye, but her name was credited on numerous scientific journals. She seemed super impressive. Dr. Hart had made her fortune early in her career when she innovated a disease testing device now used in clinics around the world. I suddenly felt something I hadn't in a long time: excitement and hope. My heart started to beat fast in my chest. I decided to take the leap. I clicked the NDA. Heart racing now, I skimmed an extensive document, gleaning it was meant to ensure that any and all information about the Institute would remain strictly confidential. I signed it swiftly and pressed submit. Then, I was taken to my official invitation. I'll share it with you here, and yes, I do realize I am breaking my NDA, but I'm more than willing to risk all consequences to get this information out to everyone. Thank you for considering the New Genesis Institute. Founded by renowned Dr. Evelyn Hart, the New Genesis Institute is at the forefront of revolutionary research in preventative medicine, with a focus on creating healthier and stronger generations. We are conducting a series of elite fertility treatments, designed not only to help women conceive, but to ensure that future children are born with optimal health to give them the best possible chance in life. Should you decide to take part in our program, You will receive personalized fertility treatments designed by Dr. Hart and her team. Accommodation during your treatment and pregnancy at the New Genesis Institute. Personalized healthcare for the duration of your participation. Financial support for you and your child in the years of their development in exchange for participation in scheduled health monitoring for research purposes. The opportunity to contribute to a better future, ensuring that the next generation is equipped to thrive. This invitation is offered to a select few individuals and is fully funded by Dr. Hart's personal investment in the future of medicine. Your resilience and willingness to embrace new possibilities have made you an ideal candidate for our program. If you want to participate in our innovative fertility program, please RSVP at your earliest convenience. We look forward to the opportunity to welcome you to the New Genesis Institute. I stared at that letter for I don't know how long. Reading it, and rereading it, and rereading it. Then, suddenly, before I even realized I was making the decision, I was responding, "Thank you so much for reaching out, yes. I would love to participate." Their response came quickly. I received an email with detailed instructions. A private car would pick me up on March 1st, followed by a flight to their facility. The email explained that the New Genesis Institute was located on a private island, a place that, from the photos in the email, looked more like a resort than a clinic. Towering palm trees and sparkling blue water surrounded white buildings that gleamed in the sunlight. It didn't seem real. But then again, no part of this whole situation felt real. It didn't bother me at the time that I couldn't find the institute on a map. They had detailed extreme secrecy in the NDA. Instead of being nervous, I preferred to embrace a dream of a different reality that took me away from my current depressing existence. Plus, it was perfect timing. I was looking for a rental starting March 1st, and as accommodation was included during my stay at the institute, I wouldn't have to worry about that. All I had to do is move all my stuff to a storage unit and let my life take me where it was going to take me. I had spent so many years trying to achieve a specific plan. Giving over to this felt right to me, somehow. It felt like winning the lottery. I let that high feeling carry me to March 1st. When March 1st came, that was the first time I felt true fear. What if this was all a scam? Or worse, a joke? Was someone playing me? And if they were, why? But the car arrived precisely when it said it would. And it took me to an airport where I was welcomed onto a small plane. Apart from the crew, there were two other people on board, Claire and Mariah. I learned that they were also going to participate in Dr. Hart's treatment. On the flight, we got to know each other better. Claire and Mariah had very similar stories to my own. They both had trouble conceiving and didn't have the funds for any alternate route to motherhood. Claire was a widow, her husband died of cancer, and Mariah was recently single. Mariah also had a child who had passed away in infancy. Neither of them had any other children, but desperately wanted them. We were all so excited about being selected by Dr. Hart for her program. Claire and Mariah agreed that the whole thing didn't seem real. But, like me, they let their hope for a child lead their decision to make this epic leap of faith. The plane landed on a pristine airstrip. We were greeted by uniformed staff who smiled and greeted us as if they already knew us personally. An especially friendly staff member, Lark, took us under her wing. She escorted us towards the main building where we were told we'd be introduced to Dr. Hart. Touching my feet to that island, seeing those buildings, this is when things really started feeling real for me. The facility looked amazing. There were little cottages dotted around a larger main building. Lark told us that each of us would get our own cottage for the duration of our stay. Gardens weaved throughout. Lark explained that we were free to roam the grounds of the facility, but the north half of the island had eroding cliffs that were super dangerous. A border wall made a division between that part of the island and the facility, so as long as we didn't try to get over the wall, we'd be safe. Dr. Hart emerged from the main building to greet us. She was poised and magnetic, with piercing green eyes. They weren't unkind, but had a calculating quality to them. She seemed to be assessing us from the moment she laid eyes on us. She spoke with measured confidence. "Welcome. You've made the right choice coming here. I promise, we'll take excellent care of you." She urged us to explore the island and take time to get to know the other women we'd be going on this journey with. I learned there were 20 of us. Before we were permitted to start fertility treatment, we spent our days in group therapy sessions, sharing our stories, our hopes, and fears. We came from different backgrounds, different countries even, but we all shared a unique bond. Every one of us were single, we had all suffered a tragic loss of a loved one, and we all had the seemingly impossible dream of motherhood. In the evenings, we'd wander the gardens or sit by the ocean. We'd often talk late into the night, bonding further over our excitement. But I realized that Mariah, who had seemed so excited about this opportunity on the plane, was growing increasingly nervous about being on the island. She didn't want to talk loudly about it though, as she said we were probably being watched and listened to. She seemed scared of Dr. Hart. I kept looking for hidden cameras, but I couldn't see any. I told her she was just being paranoid. I assume now that Mariah was probably right, but then, I was actually mad at her for putting a damper on everyone's excitement. Finally, the day arrived that we would be beginning treatment. We all gathered in the main building where Dr. Hart would be speaking to us. There, we realized that our group of 20 was now 14. 6 women, including Mariah, were no longer there. Dr. Hart explained that there were a few women who were assessed as incompatible for the program and so were returned home. Dr. Hart explained our treatment process in detail. They would be using innovative science that combined traditional IVF with advanced genetic optimization techniques. She told us she had made her fortune by diagnosing problems. But she wanted to fix them. "You were selected," she said, "because you understand the anguish that comes with seeing a loved one held back by nothing but their own biology. You want a better life for your children. Not only will we be ensuring you conceive, we will also be ensuring your child has the strongest possible biological foundation. A healthier, brighter future for all humanity begins here." She told us that if anyone was uncomfortable with proceeding, they were welcome to step out and they would be flown home. She also made it clear that choosing to stay would mean we'd be leaving with a child. There was no question in my mind. I was going to stay. All of the remaining women stayed. We all wanted to bring our babies home. The 14 of us then began treatment. Apart from numerous injections, it honestly felt like the best holiday I'd ever been on. We were so well cared for. We always had the best food to eat, and massages and therapy whenever we needed it. The staff were amazing. In therapy, we were encouraged to see the health benefits our children were receiving as the future of humanity. We felt good about contributing to a healthy new generation. Every single one of us became pregnant quickly. Regular scans and health checks told us our babies were growing well. I was told I'd be having a girl. I was in bliss, falling in love with my little girl who I had yet to meet. She had strong kicks inside me, so I wanted a strong name for her. I named her Freya. I wondered if she would look like her brother. One night, Claire and I were sitting on the beach beneath the stars. Both our bellies had grown large by this time. I was stroking mine with love, but Claire just stared at hers. She made a grimace as her baby gave her a mighty kick. I could even see the press of his little foot against her stomach. Claire seemed troubled, her usual bright smile replaced by a shadow of doubt. "What's wrong?" I asked her. Do you ever feel like there's something off about all this? She responded quietly, her voice barely audible over the waves. Off? No, I said quickly. But for some reason, I had the intense feeling I was lying. I pushed the feeling away because I didn't want to believe it, not when I was so close to finally holding my daughter in my arms. Do you understand the specific treatment they've given to us and our babies? Claire asked. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, I responded. I don't understand any of that technical stuff. But I know they know what they're doing. That's all that matters to me. What if there's something, I don't know, wrong with our kids? Claire asked me, eyes filling with tears. There's nothing wrong. They've been monitoring them all so closely. I smiled, took her hand in mine, and said reassuringly, I think it's just nerves. We've all been through so much to get here. Even as I said it, I wasn't sure if I was trying to reassure her or myself. The next day Claire was in therapy practically the whole day. When she met me for dinner, she had her usual smile back on her face. You're right, it was definitely just nerves. I don't know what came over me. I forgot how truly lucky I am to be a part of all this. How lucky my child is. Aren't we lucky? I nodded and gave her a huge hug, squeezing her tightly. We were told that for the safety of us and our babies that delivering a little early by C-section would be best. We received the delivery schedule. Claire was to be first, I was last. I couldn't help but feel angry that I would be the last of us to be able to hold my child. But I reminded myself that I'd probably forget that feeling as soon as Freya was in my arms. The deliveries were to happen over 2 days, 7 one day, 7 the next. I felt extremely restless on the day when Claire and the others were going to have their babies. I couldn't stay still. I decided to go for a walk. I walked, and kept on walking. No one stopped me, the staff very busy with the deliveries. For some reason, I kept heading north. I don't know what took me there, but eventually I got to the border wall. Coming up against it made me frustrated that I couldn't keep walking. The wall was made of stone and was topped with electric wire. Pretty extreme, I thought. I couldn't help but wonder what was on the other side. At the time, I told myself that I just desperately needed something to distract myself from the agony of waiting to hold my child. But deep down, I think I was actually scared about what information they were keeping from us. I decided to climb a tree. Not easy, and pretty stupid, considering I was so pregnant. But I was consumed with seeing what was over that wall. I climbed and climbed until I could see, row upon row of identical, simple, gravestones. Hello. I heard the voice echoing up from below the tree. I looked down to see Dr. Hart staring up at me. I hadn't heard her following me. When did she get there? It's best if you come down now, she said. I climbed down as carefully as I could manage. What is that, over there? I asked her. We were told there were dangerous cliffs. But that's not true, is it? It's a cemetery, she told me. I never wanted it hidden, but there were those at the institute who thought our facility would be more peaceful without it in view. Healthier for the mothers. Who are they? I mean, who are buried there? I asked her, not really wanting to know the answer. In our line of work, pushing the boundaries of science and human potential, there are moments of profound loss, she said. Not every story here has a perfect ending. The individuals memorialized there were part of this journey, just as you are now. They entrusted us with their dreams, their deepest hopes, and though the outcomes were not what we wished, their courage paved the way for the advancements we've made today. I was speechless. I held onto my belly tightly, feeling my daughter stretching inside. Don't be scared. We are all part of something larger than ourselves here, Dr. Hart continued. You and your daughter will be fine. We've come a long way. Your daughter, she will be perfect. I felt myself start to hyperventilate. Breathe, breathe, remember to breathe, I heard Dr. Hart say as darkness started to overtake my sight. The next thing I remember, I was waking up in a bed. I was terribly confused. And in pain. I felt my belly and I knew, my baby was gone. Where is she? I shouted out. Where's my baby? Where's my daughter? Dr. Hart entered my room. "Shhhh," she said. "Your baby is fine. We delivered her, she's healthy. You fainted. We decided it was best to move up your delivery to today. But don't worry, everything went well. You and your daughter are perfectly healthy." My daughter. Freya. Can I see her? I pleaded. "Of course you can," said Dr. Hart. She waved in a nurse, who was holding a baby wrapped in a blanket, Freya. When I looked at her, I knew immediately she was mine. She reminded me so much of Oliver. Her little button nose was the same as his, which matched mine also. And she had the same dark hair with soft waves to it. But she was a lot bigger than Oliver. She seemed so much stronger. And her eyes were wide open, taking in everything with total awareness. The nurse asked if I'd like to feed her, passing me a bottle with formula. I asked if I could breastfeed her. But Dr. Hart told me that wouldn't be a good idea. She lifted Freya's lips to show that she had a full row of gleaming pointy teeth. I was shocked. Dr. Hart reminded me that my daughter was given biological advantages to ensure she'd thrive. She then picked up a scalpel and sliced into Freya's little leg. Freya let out a wail. I pulled my baby away from Dr. Hart. "What are you doing?" I screamed at her. "Look," she said. "Your daughter is fine." I looked down to Freya's leg to see the cut had closed. In front of my eyes, it healed. "You will never need to worry about your child being sick or hurt," Dr. Hart said. "She's perfect." I looked down at my daughter. She had stopped crying. Her little wide eyes were now watching me. "Yes, she is perfect," I said. "I love her to the stars and back, and always will." Dr. Hart smiled. We spent Freya's first year on the island with the rest of the Genesis children. That's what we called the children born to us 14. It was a dream. Freya grew quickly. All the children did. They all hit milestones far ahead of schedule. Freya crawled at 2 months, walked at 5, and her first words were eerily articulate for someone barely out of infancy. From her first days, her eyes, full of curious intelligence, seemed to hold more understanding than they should. I marveled at all of her achievements. Claire and I got closer in the year 2. She watched her son, Kian, grow with as much amazement as me. Any worries she had before seemed to be washed away, seeing him laugh and play with his friends. After the first year, Dr. Hart arranged for us all to transition into the real world. Freya and I were placed in a fully furnished apartment. It was beautiful, a dream, really, knowing that was our home. I should have felt comfortable there. But the first night, I couldn't fall asleep. I was super restless. I tossed and turned for hours. I settled myself thinking I was probably just missing the comfort of the island, the family I'd formed between the mothers, children, and staff. Finally, I fell asleep. I dreamt about the island. Dreamt about Freya and I in our cottage. But in my dream, I left Freya. I walked away, north. To the cemetery. I got to the wall, and it loomed over me. So I pushed. And pushed and pushed. Until it crumbled. Beyond it were the gravestones. And Mariah. She was standing there, half buried in a grave. And she was staring right at me. I woke with a start. I tried to shake the nightmare of Mariah from my head. But it was almost as if I could hear her voice whispering. I couldn't hear what she said, but it made me remember about what she had said on the island about cameras. I got out of bed, and I searched every corner, but couldn't find anything. I felt foolish for looking. We had regularly scheduled health checks with the institute staff, so they didn't need to be watching us 24/7, I told myself. I went back to bed. Freya thrived. She excelled in school. Almost too much though. She continued to be placed ahead of her age group. It made it a bit challenging for her to find friends. But she had fun in sports. She joined the swim team, and was winning gold medals almost as soon as she started. And she loved painting. I kept in contact with Claire, who lived in the same city as me. Claire noticed that Kian was having challenges making friends too. It made her sad because she remembered how happy he was with the Genesis kids. I made a point of scheduling more playdates so Kian and Freya could hang out. The two got on really well. They were almost like siblings. Freya and I had a wonderful time in her childhood. She'd tell me everything, about kids at school, her favorite books, what shape she thought the clouds looked like and how she wanted to paint them. She'd break into a huge smile when she saw me cheering her on at swim meets. We'd spend hours together, her words flowing like a babbling stream. She trusted me with everything. And I relished every moment with my beautiful, strong, brilliant daughter. Every second with her felt like a miracle. When Freya was around 15, things began to shift. I noticed her temper seemed to flare more if she was hungry. I figured that was a pretty normal teen thing. I didn't think much of it, just prepared myself for perhaps a rocky teen phase. And made sure to stock the fridge well. Then Freya started being obsessed with meat. Which was weird, because she used to turn her nose up at it. Now it was all she ate. She'd even push away the macaroni and cheese I'd make for her, which used to be her favorite. One day I caught her licking a raw steak. I asked what she was doing, and she just snapped at me. What? I was hungry. I took the meat away from her and immediately scheduled a health check with the institute. They did some tests and told me that Freya just needed more iron in her diet. They gave me a strict meal plan for her. They told me to reach out again if anything else changes. I called Claire to see if Kian was having any issues. She told me he just had a health check as well and was given his same diet. She sounded weary. I asked if everything was okay. She confided in me that Kian was having a really hard time at school. He wasn't getting on with the other kids at all, picking fights, which he'd win every time. Claire said it looked like he may be expelled. She said she had talked to the institute about it. They said that if he couldn't manage public schooling, they would arrange a suitable boarding school for him. I hung up, thankful that Freya's problems weren't so bad, in comparison. Freya managed pretty well with her new meal plan. She seemed happy. That made me happy. Then Claire called me, one day, sobbing. She said that Kian was gone. Gone? I asked, my heart plummeting into my stomach. My first thought, for some reason, was that when she said, gone, that she meant, dead. She was that distraught. But no. She explained that something had happened at his school. The institute felt it best to take him and to school him in their private boarding school where he could be more closely monitored. Where his lessons would match his intelligence level better. Claire said that she wasn't able to visit him, just have him for holidays. I told her that if he was having challenges in the regular system, then boarding school would probably be great for him. She agreed. I reminded her that Christmas was just around the corner, and that she'd be able to see him so soon. But then Claire said that she wished they'd keep him for Christmas too. I was shocked. What do you mean? I asked her. Then she whispered so quietly I could hardly hear her, because I'm scared of him. I tried to reassure Claire that boarding at the institute would help Kian calm down. They know what they're doing, I said. She said, yes, right, of course. And said goodbye. I hung up, feeling rather rattled. I found Freya, who was reading in bed, and kissed her goodnight. That night I had that nightmare again, the one with Mariah in the graveyard. I woke up covered in a cold sweat. I got up out of bed to change and toss my soaked PJs in the wash. Then I noticed Freya's bedroom door was open. I looked in, she was gone. I looked about the apartment. "Freya," I called out. But there was no answer. I panicked. I ran out into the hall. "Freya," I shouted. Then I saw her. She was emerging from our neighbor's apartment. "What are you doing?" I asked her. Then she turned to me, and that's when I saw it, the blood. Blood dripping down her mouth. I ran to her. "Freya, what happened? Are you okay?" I asked. Freya looked up at me, with a look of almost shock on her face. "I was hungry," she answered plainly. I pushed into our neighbor's apartment to see the body. Bloody. Broken. Chunks of flesh torn from it. I felt Phrygia grasp my arm tightly. "Mom, I didn't want to kill anyone, I swear," she said. "I was just hungry. Starving. I had to eat." I felt myself begin to hyperventilate. "Mom, breathe," I heard Freya say as darkness clouded my vision. "Please, breathe." The next thing I remember is staff from the institute in my apartment. How and when they got there, I have no idea. But I saw there was still blood on Freya. They told me that they would take care of everything. That Freya needed special monitoring. They told me that she'd be taken care of in their private boarding school. Where Kian is? I managed to get out. Yes, I was told. Actually, Dr. Hart has decided that it will be best for all of the Genesis children to be schooled together from now on. A controlled environment where they can learn to manage their differences. They told me that they would keep in contact. I was so shocked that all I could do was nod. They started to usher Freya to the door. I jumped up. I wrapped Freya in a big hug and told her I loved her. That I would always love her. Then they were gone. Then, I just sat there, for hours. Wondering if what I told my daughter was true. I told her I loved her. How could that be true? She just killed someone. Ate them. I was horrified. Disgusted. It made my head swim. My beautiful, strong, brilliant daughter is, what? A monster? I puked onto the floor in front of me. But I knew what I said wasn't a lie. I still loved my daughter. And I knew I still wanted to protect her. I trusted that the institute would help her. They knew what they were doing. Right? I called Claire and told her that Freya would be joining Kian at the boarding school. I wanted to tell her why. But I found I couldn't. I skirted around the truth, instead telling her that I truly believed they were both in the right place. Staff at the institute gave me updates on Freya. I was told she was taken back to the island with the other Genesis children where a boarding school was set up. I was assured they had the best teachers available. At first, the updates about Freya came regularly. The institute staff told me that she was adjusting well to life among the other children. And Freya would write me letters. We were able to keep up a connection, at the beginning. But over time, the updates grew sparse. Then Freya stopped replying to my letters. When I tried to call, the staff were polite but evasive. Eventually, the communication stopped entirely. It had been 2 years since I last saw Freya. It terrified me when I wasn't able to contact anyone. I was desperate for any type of communication. What if Freya was hurt, and I didn't know? What if she was dead? I wanted to go to the island, but I had no idea where it was. Claire urged me to leave it. She said it was best to just let the institute take care of things. She reminded me what I told her, they know what they're doing. Then, the news broke. A staff member from the institute, one of the survivors, she was the one that went to the media. When she was interviewed, I recognized her immediately, Lark. I remember how happy and kind she was welcoming me to the island. Now her face looked haunted. She shared footage of the massacre. I hardly recognized the island when I saw it first. It was no longer an oasis. CCTV footage captured what looked like scenes from a horror film. Bodies of staff members, ripped apart, lay strewn across the grounds. Multiple video angles, all around the facility, all over the gardens. The footage showed Lark cowering by a group of Genesis children, pleading for her life. I say, children, because that's how I knew them. But they didn't look like children anymore. They looked like strong young adults in their 20s. But I immediately recognized the person leading the group. It was Kian. I scoured the other faces for Freya, hoping with all my soul I wouldn't see her amongst these faces covered in blood, predator eyes gleaming with the hunt, but she was there. My heart sank when I saw her. But then, at the same time, it lifted. She was alive. My daughter was alive. We will let you deliver the message, Kian told Lark. Humanity has had its time, he said. We are the future. Then Kian turned to speak directly to a CCTV camera. They thought they could control us. He shouted. They thought they were superior because they made us. No. We are stronger. Faster. Smarter. Humans are below us. Why should we bow to them? Why should we be caged? Those behind him cheered defiantly. Including Freya. They all turned and left. Lark, left alive, shook with sobs. The CCTV footage then showed the children getting on boats and leaving the island. The news then showed how the island was swarmed by police and international investigators. Of course, I'm sure you've probably seen all this. Bodies were identified, but Dr. Hart, who had funded the institute, was not among them. There is no evidence of where she could be. All other CCTV footage and institute files appear to have been destroyed. They are currently readying to start an extensive exhumation of the cemetery found on the north part of the island. I've spent day, nights, all waking hours, combing through the news, desperate for any sign of Freya. The attacks have now become widespread. It seems the children have probably split into smaller hunting groups. They strike swiftly, devouring adults, teens, children, anyone they can find. Then they disappear, as if becoming one with the shadows, only to reappear somewhere else when they become hungry again. No one knows where they stay in between attacks. I know everyone is afraid. For my part, I am sorry. But I still love Freya. I can't stop loving my daughter. When I first saw the footage, I, like many of you, I'm sure, ran to lock my door immediately. I was terrified too. But then I unlocked it. Because, truthfully, I want my daughter to return to me. I told you I wanted to tell you the truth. My daughter is missing and I want to find her. I want to wrap her in my arms and keep her safe. I love her to the stars and back. I want her to be happy. That's all I've ever wanted. That's what a good mother does, right? And I'll be completely honest with you now, because I hate telling a lie. I'm not sure what lengths I will go to make sure she's happy. But I want to make sure good people aren't hurt, killed, eaten. Not when there are bad people out there. If my daughter needs meat, needs blood, there's no reason for her to feed on good people. I don't want you to be eaten. I promise you that. Because you're good people, right? Right. I know you are. My daughter is missing. But I don't want you to find her. I can find more suitable food for her, I promise.